How's everybody feeling? Not gonna lie, I really need this. 90%, 99% of what I draw ends up unfinished. It's okay. It's definitely a very relatable uh I feel like feeling or scenario that I think everybody kind of goes through. Obviously the first initial burst is always like the one with like the most amount of energy and motivation, and then as the drawing goes on it's like ooh, you're like, man, gotta keep chipping away at it. It takes a little bit of renewed motivation, but yeah. Hello, hey guys, hello, welcome to the stream. Let's see. Okay, you know what? Let's just jump right into it. let's not let's not delay any further. I guess we'll just jump into it. Hello everybody and welcome to our Monday stream. My name is Josh and I'm gonna be streaming our kind of winter or my winter illustration that I started on Saturday, and we're gonna be finishing it up for today's session. So without further ado, I'll go into the intros and just kind of housekeeping, and then we'll go into our art challenges, and then we'll go into finishing up this piece. So hello and welcome to our stream for today. If you're new here, we are Wing Canvas, and over at Wing Canvas, our mission is to make art education easily accessible to all of you guys. So thank you for joining our free live stream lessons that happen on YouTube every week from Mondays and Saturdays. Saturday ones are at 3 p.m. Eastern, and Mondays, as you can see, are at 12 p.m. Eastern. And if you tune in, you feel free to check us out. Check out our videos where we can help you level up your art skills, and also you can participate and kind of join in our community of art nerds. And we're also more than just a YouTube channel. We're an online school of illustration and visual storytelling dedicated to helping artists turn their passion into income. So a huge shout out to our amazing students and members for supporting our mission. We love seeing your incredible artwork and watching you guys grow in our classes and weekly critiques. And if you'd like to dive deeper, join our Discord where you can access stream notes, demos, exclusive artwork, art challenges, and more free resources to help you improve. So you can come connect with our fellow art nerds and get inspired. And yeah, if you guys missed it on Saturday, this is when we started this illustration. So if you want to check it out, the VOD is up on our channel. And if you want to see the notes more up close and personal, the notes are uploaded as well onto Discord on our live stream channel. So if you want to kind of catch up, if in case you missed it, everything is up there for you guys to check out for free. So yeah, let's see. What is this? Oh, someone asked, do I use the Munsell color chart? I have never heard of that before. That sounds interesting. I don't know, maybe I gotta go check it out then. But no, I have not used the Munsell color chart before. That is new to me, yeah. Did not know about the Art Nerd community earlier. Well, glad you're able to join us, and hope you're having a good time talking with everybody, or just hanging out and submitting your artworks if you are submitting your art pieces. But yeah, everybody's super nice, and sometimes we pop in to say hello and everything. So yeah. Okay, and as usual, before I start on today's kind of piece, which you can see on my screen is what we're going to be finishing today, as usual, or as always, we do a little bit of community kind of showcase to show our a little bit of love and appreciation to our community over on Discord. So every month we have something called art challenges. Let me see. Oh, did I change it? Let me see. Whoops. Let me see, did I? Oh, I think I deleted everything. Oh well. Yeah. I think I deleted. Still getting a little bit of a hang of this challenge. New slide that we're trying out, or I'm trying out at least. But yeah, if you guys didn't know, over on Discord we have a monthly challenge every month. And usually it's kind of tied to the name or the first letter of every month. But this one's a little bit different because we're actually teaming up with XPPen to do this winter illustration competition that they're hosting, and we are a part of it. And so if you didn't know, I'm going to be one of the judges, but I also submitted a personal piece myself. And maybe again, just to recap, I'll kind of show you guys it so that you guys can see what I'm talking about. But this is what I painted for XPPen as like my own personal submission. So this was kind of like the progress that we kind of went over from last week. But you guys are also free to participate in it, and there's no cost. It's open to everybody. But if you would like to check out the rules, you can definitely go and check out the rules on their website. The rules and the link is also posted on our Discord in the art challenge page at the very top. Jian has very kindly posted all the screenshots and notes and links there, so if you need to check out the rules, go check it out over there. And you are free to submit these digitally and traditionally as well. Even though XPPen is a tablet company, they are open to accepting also traditional art. So if you want to do traditional pieces, you're free to submit those. But yeah, so I'm gonna give a little bit of a shout out to the community that's been kind of working on these art challenge pieces, and to just show them a little bit of appreciation and love. And as you already saw, this is our first piece here, and it is by an artist by the name of Angel Archer. So love seeing some traditional pieces and traditional submissions over here. Really love the I don't know, just the reflection with the deer, and I guess a kind of like a dragon is really cool. The angle and the perspective is done really well, and I think you did a good job of capturing just that reflected water aspect of the drawing here. So thank you, Angel Archer, for submitting. And then the next person is Hero Pico. So this one, I think they said that they're not quite done yet. I would have to kind of read up on what they said. I don't have the Discord open in front of me at the moment, but if you want to kind of check out any of these pieces further, be sure to go on Discord and go on to our art challenge page, where you can check out every submission that's been thrown up onto our page so far. And who knows, maybe we'll give you a little bit of a special shout out during our live stream. So thank you, Kiro Pico, for submitting. This is like a cool, and the mirror looks really cool too. Really love the decal and the design of the frame. But yeah, thank you, Kiro Pico, and thank you to Angel Archer for your submissions. So you guys can participate in this as well, so just feel free to throw up your drawing onto Discord, and we will kind of usually just randomly select the most kind of recent pieces, as long as they're related or as long as they show some kind of connection to the theme. We will usually kind of give a shout out to everybody that posts there. So yeah. Okay, so with that being said, let's jump into today's piece. So last time, actually maybe I'm not gonna close it, let me open it back. Last time, as a little bit of a recap, in case there are anybody here that didn't kind of catch it. Oh, actually, before I completely forget, before we jump in, actually, this stream is also sponsored by XPPen. So we'd like to thank our sponsor for the stream, XPPen, who have an amazing selection of digital art tablets for both beginner and advanced artists. If you're looking for an affordable and reliable digital tablet, go browse their store. You'll find the link in the description below. So again, thank you, XPPen, for sponsoring this video. And also, yeah, it's going to be a fun one. So this is technically like an extra XPPen winter illustration type of piece that we're doing here, but as a little bit of a recap as to what we did, the theme is mirror or reflections, and also kind of like a portal or journey to another kind of world in a way. And so I was trying to come up with different compositions, different kind of approaches and ideas for the piece, for this new idea. And so the first one that I did was like a kind of like a boy from my original submission, an original piece that I did. And this time he's looking down into almost this like pensive or pool mirror, kind of similar to one that is in like Harry Potter. And then there's like smoke coming up and everything, but I was like, this, I don't know. I just wasn't feeling this idea, and sometimes this is just how it goes. Sometimes ideas just look better or they look more concrete in your head, and then when you draw it, it's like, okay, it's not quite there. So then we did another one where I was like, okay, how about he's like falling down and then he's like reaching into the mirror, and then his index finger just dips into the pool a little bit, and then it's like reacting and it's kind of like I don't know, like splashing out and everything. So I was like, oh, that's really, really cool. And if you're wondering, it's like, oh, why is the fountain like a deer head or a reindeer head? It's actually because our community voted to have kind of the creature of a reindeer be a part of the illustration. So again, if you want to kind of partake in the polls, before the stream goes up, usually we post a poll asking the community what they'd like to have us include in the drawing, and reindeer won out. So this is also a good opportunity to subscribe and ring the bell so that you guys are notified of when we stream and when we make some posts. And then we took this illustration and we made it kind of a bit more decorative and kind of gave this more fantastical framing to the drawing itself. And now we're at a point where I am just simply tracing and cleaning up the drawing. So that's kind of where we're at here, and I've changed just the framing of it so that I can put the overview over on the side so that so it's much easier to look at in case I'm zooming or spinning the canvas around. You can kind of see how the drawing still looks as a whole on the left hand side, but I will still be zooming in and out just to do all my cleanup and everything, because I rotate my screen a lot and I zoom in and out a lot because I like to zoom in to do the line work and then zoom back out to like just take a quick look at my drawing and see how it's going. right when I explained the challenge, you got an XP pen. You know what's funny? I have never gotten an XP pen ad on my phone before, but recently, I think maybe because as I'm streaming, I'm mentioning XP pen a lot, and so like recently on Instagram, I've been getting a lot of XP pen tablet ads. So yeah, it's what are the coincidences? But yeah, so this is kind of what I did and worked on before stream happened. I cleaned up the reindeer a little bit, and I am now going to work on the water. I actually might still go back and work on the what is it, the deer a little bit, just because there's a little bit of a style difference. And I think it's just that the style that I went for my character is a little bit rounder, is a little bit more stylized, and the shapes are a bit bigger. So I might do the same thing going back. If I do have some time to go back to the reindeer, I might kind of maybe, I don't know, round out the horns a little bit, or round out the ears, or some of the facial features here. Oh, that's also hello. Your name is also in like a language I cannot speak, but that's cool. Hello. Let's see. Some of your progress in the last one, you do a series of explanations and teaching to draw mythical creatures like the death dodo. Not anytime soon, but I'm pretty sure like mythical creatures is a pretty big topic, or a pretty big kind of subject matter that I feel like we always end up doing here or there, whether it's the main topic or not. Especially Jesse. I think Jesse always does some like mythical creature design. So if you're kind of interested, definitely check it out. And again, keep an eye out for the titles or the polls, because that sometimes will inform you guys a little bit more as to like the subject matter of what we'll be drawing. Yeah. Oh, great. Look at that. Give a shout out to Vin, where they uploaded a link to a mythical creature video. So yeah. And also, hello, Silver Moon. No, don't worry. You did not miss much. Actually, maybe we'll just keep it all in the fountain line work. So I'm just simply doing the line work right now, nothing too over the top. And yeah, we're just going to be cleaning up the drawing, because this one is about finishing your pieces. So usually my mindset for finishing up pieces is like, I'm more of a line work guy. So I usually put a little bit more time, and I don't want to say like effort, but I usually put a little bit more kind of time spent on the line work, more so than the kind of the line or the color itself. But that doesn't mean that I'm not going to put any effort or any time into the coloring part. It's just that in terms of like where I divest or invest my time and resources and energy, I usually put a good amount of it into the line work. So if you're more of a line work person, then this might be quite relatable. I feel like Vin is kind of on the same page. I've seen some of Vin's pieces before where I feel like your pieces are also kind of very similar to mine in the sense of like we tend to focus more on like the shapes and the line work more than the coloring. But yeah, it's just and it's not like one is better than the other. It's more just like what kind of piques your interest, what kind of matches your style and your tone a little bit more. So I wanted the water to really like splash out, to kind of feel like it's reacting to his finger kind of touching the surface of this pool or sieve that we kind of said. So I wanted it to really come out and splash outwards. Now I don't want it to obscure things like the finger or the reflection of the finger as it touches touches the water. So I'm really trying to make sure and be careful of where the splashes go. So this is kind of like a thing that you will have to kind of consider or take into consideration when you're doing your final drawing, is like sometimes things might make sense for like, oh well, if the water is splashing up, it should splash in all random directions. It might even cover the hand, might even cover up the face. But when it comes to illustrations and drawings, it's really more of like the final product. If it doesn't really make sense for the final product, or if it does, it kind of hinders the focal point or the drawing of the image, then I would say like redirect the splashes, redirect things that might be obscuring the image. So it's always in your best favor to still keep an eye on the final result and make sure that it makes sense for the drawing, even though you're like, oh, but that's not how it would physically be. And that's something that everybody's going to have a little bit of a different take on. But yeah, and I'm bringing this up because this was something that I feel like comes to mind every now and then whenever I'm drawing or I'm designing something, or I'm kind of making like, let's say, an invitation card. Like someone's like, oh, can you just do a really quick invitation card for like a party or a get together? And I'm like, okay, sure. And something that I'm always thinking about is like, even though something makes sense in one way, the final, I think, kind of question you should ask yourself is like, does it make sense visually for the piece that you're doing? And it was something that was brought up by one of my teachers in university, and she was like, oh, just because this like technically is how something is, it works better compositionally this way. And I was like, at the moment, I kind of didn't like that she brought that up, but afterwards I was like, you know what, that does make some kind of sense, and it's still something that I feel like I bring into my drawings, or it's a certain kind of mindset that I'm always considering when I'm drawing. But yeah, hopefully that gives you guys a little bit of insight, or gives you guys a little bit of a different analysis or take on how to approach finalizing your pieces, because I know that finalizing a piece, there's a lot to juggle. There's the coloring part, there's the cleanup of the lines, there's the rendering, but then now you have to consider things like, oh, well, how does it read as the final image? And that part is kind of up to you to kind of decide how detailed or where things go, the composition of it goes. Okay, I think that's kind of good. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to like draw. Let's see. Let's see. Completely out of context, but do you like the Mega Zorora's design? I have never heard of that before, but that's a cool name. Sounds like a Digimon kind of name. Is there a list that explains such things with the intention of drawing mythical creatures? Maybe. There might be some list. I would say that, when it comes to drawing mythical creatures, my take is, real life inspiration is always a good one. I think you can't go wrong by just grabbing and mashing up different creatures together. and to just get new ideas. Because I feel like if you kind of pigeonhole yourself into just coming up with one design because you're like, oh, well, I followed this kind of rule, then I think your creature design might kind of feel stale or kind of repetitive after a certain point. So going to like real life and looking at different animals, thinking about like what characteristics or features that you want in your characters or creatures design would help a lot in coming up with like new and interesting designs. But yeah, as a Pokemon, you got a Mega Evolution. I've never played Pokemon before, ever in my whole entire life. But yeah. Oh, there you go. Yeah, Vin gave a playlist video, so that's nice. Awesome. Thank you, Vin. Yeah. And just again, a heads up, I'm gonna try to keep up with chat as best as I can, but if I miss a question, it's not because I'm trying to ignore or if I'm ignoring your question, but it's more just so that I might be drawing and then your question might go up in a different spot. But yeah. But yeah, I think this is it. Okay, so I think we do have a good amount of time. If you guys didn't know, our streams last for about 2 hours. And so sometimes we go a little bit over if I have some time to kind of clean things up. So I think we have some time to clean some things up, and I think I'm gonna clean up the reindeer just so that it matches the tone a little bit more. Actually, I totally forgot. I added these curving lines on the fountain, so I'm gonna try to add these into the shape of the fountain. Also, originally the fountain was kind of held up by like the stem, but if the reindeer's antlers are kind of holding it up, I'm not gonna add it. I'm just gonna keep it as is. And yes, the antlers were placed exactly where the grooves are, so if you're wondering like, oh, is that supposed to be how it is? Like, yes, they were intentionally placed there so the antlers kind of match the grooves of it. Oh yeah, and that too, yeah. If I don't catch it, Vin might answer it real quick if she has like an answer for it. I actually might add like a little bit of a, I don't know, decorative element here. I don't know, maybe that's a bit too much. We'll see. Best project as a beginner artist. Well, there's a lot of different exercises that you can definitely try out. If you're trying to practice your technicalities, I always recommend doing the, good old reliable, classical, traditional still life studies. So start off with something kind of normal. It could be like a book, could be a bottle, could be an apple. And I know that it's like the cliche of like, oh, of course, start off with the still life studies, but the reason why is because you want to practice your ability to observe and simplify the things that you're drawing. Because if you're not able to simplify the things that you're looking at, it's going to be hard when you need to look at references. Like, let's say you need to draw your hand, but you don't know how to draw your hand off the top of your head, then you're going to have to rely on like photos or a mirror. And if you're not able to kind of break down what you see in the mirror or in the objects, then it's going to be hard to copy the pose that you want. So starting off with still life drawings or starting off with just like traditional, like a book or an apple or a bottle, is, even though it sounds very cliche and it might sound very, very simple and kind of straightforward, I always recommend it as a good starting off point because it's just very straightforward and you can't really go wrong with doing a study like that. At least that's in my opinion. But yeah, so if you're really, really beginner and you want to practice your technical skills, and I think a lot of times people, when they look at traditional still life studies, a lot of them go like, oh, I'm just copying a book, or I'm just copying a bottle or an apple. But that's not really what you're trying to do. If you think that that's what it is when you do still life studies, then you're kind of missing the point a little bit. And this goes for anybody. It's like if you go into still life studies and it's like, oh, I'm just going to be copying a book, and oh, I did a really good job of copying it exactly. And it's like that might be the final result, but I would say what's more important is your process when you're doing studies. So it's more like, okay, how did you break down the apple? How did you simplify and break down the shape of the bottle? That's more important than whether you had like a super, super accurate recreation of the objects that you're studying, at least at the beginner stage. You want to really check and make sure that your ability to observe and simplify things into basic shapes is much more reinforced than the other stuff. But that's my take on it. Vin might have a different answer. Perfect for a clip of Josh. We're gonna turn. Well, look at Vin, just on top of it. Yeah. Oh, well, that's also for like if you're trying to practice technical stuff. I guess in regards to like character design, if you're trying to get better at character design or creature design, then uh actually I guess the answer's still kind of the same, because you're not going to be able to draw characters or creatures if you don't have good fundamentals down. So if you don't know how to observe and simplify, then it's going to be really, really hard to try to draw a face or to try to draw the body or the figure, because that's ultimately the kind of the approach to drawing figures and characters, is learning and being able to look at the face and simplify it. But yeah, hopefully that gives you an idea of like how to start. I know that that's kind of like the hard pill to swallow every time when someone is like, oh, I want to learn how to draw, and it's not the most satisfying answer, I guess, in a way. It's like, oh, do studies of books. But if you're able to draw a book and you're able to simplify it, then it gets easier and easier as you move on. Oh, okay. So kind of breaking down like what I'm doing to simplify also the reindeer and kind of the style of it. Like I mentioned, the style of the character that I'm drawing here is like much more, everything's a little bit bigger, everything's a little chunkier. So I'm trying to implement the same thing. So beforehand with the horns, if you saw it, it was much more detailed. There were a lot more kind of like changes and angles and forms to it. But instead, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go with the big sweeping lines around the antlers. I'm going to make the antlers much smoother and not as kind of quote unquote detailed, so that it matches the style a little bit more. I think what I'll do now is just clean up the line weight. So again, it matches the line weight that I have with the character at the top. Because my line weight on the character at the top is kind of reminiscent of like kind of Disney character art, or kind of reminiscent of like that more cartoony look where there's like thin to thick to thin kind of line weight, and I don't really have that just yet on the antlers. So in order to kind of organize where I put a heavier sense of line weight, what I'm going to do is the stuff that's at the bottom is going to get a heavier line weight, and if there's a sudden kind of like big sweeping curve, the apex of the curve is what's going to get the thickest amount of line. And then the stuff that is on the surface up here, that's going to get a thinner line weight. So then this way there's a little bit of kind of cohesiveness and kind of in a way, a formula to how these lines are organized. So it's not just kind of randomly like, oh, I'm going to put a thick line here, I'm going to put a thin line here. I'm trying to create almost kind of like a system so that it's consistent and it makes some amount of sense. And the reason why I'm putting the thicker lines at the bottom is because it's kind of like reminiscent of shadow lines, or reminiscent of like, yeah, just kind of weight. The weight of the drawing goes a little bit lower. Yeah. Fundamentals are kind of boring, but unfortunately they're important. Yeah, that that is the unfortunate thing. Yeah. What brushes do I use for Krita? Oh, that's a great question. Yeah. I'll answer it here, but actually a little bit of a tease. We're actually working on a video kind of related to the brushes on Krita. So definitely, again, if you guys want to be the first ones to watch it. Definitely subscribe and ring that notification bell so you know when we upload new videos. Because, yeah, we're going to be making a new Krita video very, very soon. We haven't made one in a while, and it has something to do with the brushes. But in order to just answer that question, for this one, I am using a brush called Charcoal Pencil Thin. I've been really loving this pencil as of late. Usually I use this kind of adjusted brush, so it's kind of the charcoal pencil medium, but the default charcoal pencil medium, the lines don't taper as much, so I don't really quite like that. So in the new one that I made, I adjusted the settings a little bit so that there's a little bit more tapering to it. In my previous videos and previous streams, this is the brush that I use pretty much the most, but recently I've just been using this one, and this one's just default. I haven't changed anything on this charcoal pencil thin brush, and I've been really, really loving it. And then in terms of erasers, I'll use the eraser circle, or I've been trying out this one, and I quite like this one too, eraser small. This one is a little bit hard to control because the pressure sensitivity in terms of like the sizing is a little bit, it's quite sensitive. So I don't use it too much. So my default usually for erasers is the eraser circle, which is this big chunky guy. And then my drawing for now, I've been using the charcoal pencil thin. So hopefully anybody who's using Krita, if you're like, oh, I don't know how to like download brushes, I don't know where to download brushes, what brush can I use, then I recommend like these two. If you like a more traditional textured brush, I think like this one is a good one to start off with. But yeah. Do you have to teach how to draw analog horror? Oh, I feel like you're gonna love Jesse's videos. Jesse is kind of like our resident horror person. Um, I'm not so much on the horror side. I'm more like sci-fi and fantastical side of things. Iggy is more like on the mech side of things. So each of the instructors, we kind of specialize in different kind of strengths or subject matter. And Jesse is our resident horror person. So yeah, I'm pretty sure like if you check out some of her videos, you'll get a good amount of information and good amount of kind of value out of those ones for sure. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of again simplify the shapes of the deer here as well. So instead of all these like big kind of bumps, I'm gonna try to find a way to just simplify the shapes. So it's not a it doesn't mean that I'm gonna take away like the fur lines or those brush or those line strokes or anything like that, but I'm just gonna streamline it just a little bit, and then maybe even make like the hair shape here just a little bit bigger, just so that it matches like the form that we see on our person on the other side a little bit better. Might do the same thing here, but just kind of. Oh, in regards to erasers though, I do actually just usually use the default eraser function on the brush itself. So if you didn't know, if you press E or if you press this icon up here, you'll turn your brush into or turn on the eraser function of your brush. And I find that it helps really, really quite a lot because you'll be able to maintain the texture and the style of your brush when you're erasing. And if you're kind of wondering like, oh, why is that useful, or like when would I ever kind of use that, basically, let's say I swap over to my eraser here. If I erase this line, let's say I erase this line right here, you'll notice that one side is much more textured, and then one side's a little bit cleaner. And if you don't want that, then I would recommend just using your pencil eraser function. So the texture and the style and the finish just retains itself and it stays the same. Yeah. Just use the eraser mode instead of an eraser brush. Yeah, so it's also kind of, I just saw that message, but yeah, basically. And I think I'm just gonna add like these bigger kind of chunks of hair, I guess, on the reindeer. So again, just trying to match the style and the tone together a little bit better. Let me see. Does the illustration require reflection? I think so. This is kind of like the tricky one that I kind of went. I guess you could say I bend the rule a little bit. So I'll show you guys the illustration that I did for my XPPen image. Just to answer this one, since I guess it's related to the submission. It's because the competition topic is like mirror, but also journey into another world. So the mirror doesn't have, the way that I interpret it is that the object that you're using should be reminiscent of a mirror, or mirror anything that reflects. So it could be water, it could be an eye reflection, it could be a reflection on a glass ball, it could be a window reflection, or like a literal mirror itself. But because the other topic that you want to try to include is also like kind of like a portal or a journey into another world, the way that I interpret it is that it doesn't have to be a exact reflection, or it doesn't have to be a technical reflection. So I bent the rule a little bit here, and if you zoom in and look at my image that I did, the hand pose is the same, and the position of the characters are kind of connected to each other. So it's not a direct exact reflection of the pose, but they're kind of situated in the exact pose. The hand is outstretched in the same way to mirror. So the girl elf is mirroring the boy on the other side. So that's kind of how I maintain the reflection aspect of it. But in order to kind of also keep that whole theme of a portal into another world, the obviously like kind of the land or the world on the other side inside of this box cabinet is like the North Pole kind of a thing. So that's kind of how I went about it, but how you decide to interpret it is totally up to you. You can do a straight on like mirror if you want, and you can also do like a normal regular reflection if you want as well. But I think you can bend the rule, the quote unquote bend the rules a little bit if you would like. And then in regards to this one, same thing as well. Like he's diving in and reaching into the pool, which is kind of like a mirror, like a pensive in a way. And we haven't gotten to that part. I haven't drawn it yet, but there is, you can kind of see it in the rough drawing. There is a little bit of a reflection with like the finger and like the ripples in the water. So that's, again, to just hint a little bit into the whole reflection theme. But yeah, how you decide to go about it is completely up to you. But yeah, you're pretty kind of, it's pretty flexible. Maybe like the TLDR of it is that it's quite flexible as long as there's some tie to like a mirror, reflection, and also kind of like a journey to another world in a sense. But yeah. But yeah, hopefully that answers a bit of the question. Let's see. Oh, thank you, Vin, for also answering some of the questions here. I see you're you're working very hard. I appreciate it. Tackling a lot of questions and submitting a lot of playlists. So thank you. I'm also wondering if like maybe I can make the eye a little bit bigger, just so that if it's a little bit more friendly feeling, I guess. Yeah, so the way I'm restructuring this is like less details and more kind of sweeping curves, less kind of angular, jaggedy forms, and more kind of rounder shapes. Is kind of how I'm approaching it. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, also, yeah, you can never go wrong with default brushes. So what I'll have to say in regards to the default brushes, because I don't want to spoil anything for like the video, but Default brushes are like already great. You never really have to buy any like new brushes, or at least I don't think you have to buy new brushes from like people unless you really want to, or you just want to support the artist a little bit. I think like brushes is a good way of supporting artists if that's one of their kind of like things that they're promoting and selling. Because I know not every artist sells brushes, but I think like sometimes that's a good way of supporting them if they're offering that as like an option. The other thing though is that when it comes to default brushes, I would say try your best to just test it out and see if it matches the way you expect a brush to flow. And it's not to say that you have to find the most perfect brush, but instead it's more of like, okay, does the textures match the what you want? Does it flow the way that you expect it to flow? And that could be things like the opacity, could be like the sensitivity in terms of like the size and all that kind of stuff. So you really want to test out the brushes. There is no perfect brush because everybody's going to have a different expectation on what is a good brush. What I think is a good brush might be a little bit different from what you think a good brush for you is. So what might work for me might not work exactly for you. So that's why testing brushes is always like a really good idea. And then once you find a brush that does work though, definitely give it a shot. Do some like test drawings for it. And once you find one that gets as close as you can get it, then you can go into the brush settings. And for Krita, it's up here next to the brush icon on the upper left near the color swatches. So if you press that, it'll give you a brush settings page where you can play around a lot with kind of like the brush tip sensitivity. So for example, if you're like, oh, I want it to be a little bit more sensitive in terms of like the size, then you just click on the one that says size and you can play around with the graph over here. So basically the lower this kind of icon is, the lower it is down the graph, the more sensitive and more gradual your pressure sensitivity is going to be. If it's up here already, basically what that means is that the brush starts off fairly large by default, and as you press a little bit harder, it gets a little bit larger, but by default, it already starts kind of big. But if you want it to be like super thin, like a point, then you can lower this icon down here. And this line, this graph line, basically just tells you that it will be a gradual, even increase in pressure or size as you press onto your brush. That's how you change. Yeah, exactly. The settings are over there. Okay, so with that being said, I realize that this is really more like the lines and the decals, so I'm just gonna keep it. I'm gonna keep it all my line work in a group, and then now I'm gonna kind of do the fill and the colors. So might have to do this a bit more painterly, I guess. No, it's okay. we'll see how this goes. I am going to block out. Let's see. Kind of want to maintain the colors, so we'll kind of go for that blue. So my character in the original illustration had a bit of like this light gray cyan blue kind of sleeping robe, I guess you could call it. And I'm going to use this brush here called Chalk Grainy as my brush to color it. I used to use the basic one brush. Man, that not that there's anything wrong with the basic one brush. I actually think that the basic one brush is like a good classic brush. I don't think you can go wrong with the basic one. But yeah, it's, as the name implies, it's very basic. There's nothing really too fantastical about it, I guess. There's nothing fancy. There's no special bells and whistles to it. Is, as the name implies, it's very straightforward. But I think that's a good way to just kind of get used to the brushes. So if you're kind of like, or just drawing digitally in general, or if you just want to get familiar with the program, like the drawing program, then I think using like a basic one brush is totally fine. Yeah. So what I'm doing here is I'm kind of just laying down some flat colors, and this is how I typically approach painting in general. is I want to kind of just lay down the flat base color of the object. So, for example, I'm like, okay, the wardrobe is like a light gray blue kind of robe. So I'm trying to figure out like what color works best for it. And at this stage or at this point, I'm not going to be worrying about things like lighting or rendering. It's really more just figuring out like what color combinations work well for my character here. And I think in general, just so we can kind of finish this drawing or majority of this drawing during stream, I'm going to keep it fairly simple, fairly flat, nothing too over the top or fancy. And so that we can have a good solid image. But because I want a nice, good, solid image, I'm gonna, in terms of the colors I'm picking, I'm gonna try to aim for like really bold, bright, contrasting values and colors for this piece. Now, hey, bye, Chris. Glad you're able to join us. Let me see. Is design necessary for me to be an art professional? I guess, I mean, the short of it is yes. Design is always going to be a big component or a big part of drawing. I don't think you can kind of get away with not being good at design. Whether you're character designer, graphic designer, illustration, a painter, a fine arts painter, all of that ultimately does come to design. So having good design is always going to be good. Yeah. But everybody's going to have a different approach to design. So you'll have people, design is really just more like an umbrella term to describe the way that you're putting things together. So you can be a very complex designer where you love details and grit. And I know you mentioned a lot of like fantastical creatures and mythical creatures and kind of more horror kind of based stuff. And so your sense of design is going to be maybe a little bit different. You might lean more into like grit and textures and complexities. Whereas if your kind of sense of inspiration is more like, let's say, Disney or character design for family friendly films, then your sense of design is going to be maybe rounder, maybe softer. Things are a little bit more simplified, so to speak, in a way. And yeah, it's just everybody's take on it is just going to be a little bit different. Uh, for drawing in games, oh, well, you know, in terms of tablets, tablets are just it's just a tool to help you render and color. So, um, I don't know if there's a tablet that necessarily covers everything that you brought up, but a tablet is really there to just help you draw. It's just a tool. So I don't know if necessarily a tablet is going to help you with like animation or montage because that has nothing to do with the tablet itself. That has to do with more of like the software. Um, so it's kind of like asking like, oh, can a sketchbook help with watercolor? And it's like, yeah, it can, but if you don't have watercolor, then you can't do watercolor even if you have a sketchbook. Um, and then more on top of that, it would be like, oh, if I have a watercolor pad, but I only have pencil crayons, can I do watercolor? So it's really more just like making sure you have the right tools for what you need. And if you're going more for like, let's say, um, if you're going more for like animation and montage, um, it might be less so about like, do you have the right tablet, but more of like, do you have the right software? Because if you're focused more on drawing, then you're not going to be like having an animation software is not really gonna. If you're drawing, then animation software is not really gonna be necessary. You're not gonna really need that. Um, but it's really more about like what you're aiming for and what you need. hopefully that answers a little bit of it. Also, tablets aren't like generally tablets aren't too cheap. I would say that XPPen has a lot of like varying tablets at different prices, so definitely go check it out. There's also like a lot of other brands out there. There's a lot of brands in general out there that have a lot of different price points. So I think it's just in general a good rule of thumb to go check it out, see which one matches with your expectations for prices at the best. But yeah, XPPen in general also just has a lot of different varying sizes, so size is going to play a big role into the price as well. So if you're looking for something cheaper, then I would say that you're gonna be looking for a tablet that's relatively maybe like smaller. Like some of like the 10-inch to 13 inches are usually like not too expensive. But if the moment you go larger, like I don't know, anywhere from like 20 and up, or even like 15 and up inches, is going to be already really, really big. So just keep that in mind. Emulate, yeah, because the way you can think about it too is like the tablet doesn't run anything. It's kind of like it's just another monitor that you can interact with. It just has like pressure sensitivity to it. It maybe has some like buttons you can input to help you draw a little bit more efficiently. But ultimately, if you're like, oh, if you're looking for something that can withstand emulators, montage, so that sounds like video editing or animation, that's and something that's going to be able to help you with that. That's not going to be the tablet. That's going to be the computer. It's going to be your hard drive, the amount of memory you have, your storage, and also the software that you're using. That's not really going to have to do with the tablet per se. But the tablet is kind of like a second monitor that you can interact with. Yeah. Oh, okay. Thank you, Vin. Yeah, look at that. There's a nice video there to help you out also with in regards to tablets. Let me see. What do I want to do? The framing of it. Let's go with a darker. Let's go with like a dark night sky or something for the background. But I totally get it because tablets are expensive. They can be expensive, and it definitely is a. You want to do some research on it before you guys dive in to your tablets, because picking the right tablet can be a pretty important choice. And considering that they are expensive, it would be good to make sure you know which one you're picking out. So yeah, that video is going to be like really kind of hopefully helpful for anybody who is considering buying a tablet, so that you know you're picking the one that matches what you need. Okay, sure. I didn't know Samsung made drawing tablets, but that's kind of cool. Also, I'm hoping that there's also like a difference between like an iPad and a drawing tablet. So the tablets that we're all kind of mentioning or bringing up here is drawing tablets that are attached to your computer. It's different from like an iPad, um, or like a Samsung tablet, let's say. Um, Hopefully, or I don't know what the Samsung tablet that you're mentioning is, but if it's kind of similar to like an iPad, that's going to be just different from like the drawing tablets that we connect to our computers. I mean, I guess Vin, you can check it out if that's like the correct tablet. Again, it's really gonna be up to like what you need. Like if you're just looking for a portable transportable tablet that you can bring along with you wherever you go, then and you're not planning on connecting it to the computer and you're not really planning on drawing with it like with your computer, then yeah, then it could be a pretty good software. Don't want to discourage the use of like the tablet if it works perfectly fine, but yeah. Is it good? I'm not sure. I don't have a Samsung Galaxy tablet, uh, because I just don't need it for myself. I don't have any tablets. So that's why I want to, like, it seems like there might be potentially some confusion with just like how the tablets, or like the tablets that we're talking about. The tablet that we're talking about here, like, or that I'm using, like XPPen's tablet or any of the other drawing tablets out there, it's not the same as a Samsung tablet, or it's not the same as an iPad tablet. Okay, yeah. So it depends on what you want. If you want a tablet that you're bringing outside with you, like an iPad tablet, like an iPad, that's very, very different from a drawing tablet that we're all talking about here. Because what we're using here is just strictly for drawing, or to be used as like a second interactable monitor on a computer. It has to be connected to your computer. So like what I'm using here, XPPen tablet, it has to be connected to the computer. If I turn it on and it's not connected to anything, or if it's not even plugged in, it's not gonna operate. It's not gonna turn on. So just be clear, just to be clear for anybody who also is like maybe on the same in the same boat. Yes, there are different tablets out there, and the one that we're using is not like a portable tablet like an iPad or Samsung tablet. It is a drawing specific tablet. I know, English language. We use the same words for a bunch of different things, but they all, like, the same word for different things, and they all mean different, and they're all associated and used for different things. And yeah, we're slowly making our way through this, but I know that this stream here is on the topic of like finishing illustrations. So if anybody has any questions on like how I typically finish illustrations, feel free to throw them into the chat, and I will do my best to answer them as much as possible. In regards to kind of like the process or the steps that I'm taking, my approach is always like, whenever possible, fill in the background or big shapes as quickly as you can. I know that I filled in the character first, and then I was like, oh wait, actually I should fill in the background first. And the reason why I'm always like, or why I always try to fill out the background first, is because the way we perceive the colors and the values are going to change depending on the colors of the background. So after I put the background in, I might realize that my character might be a little bit too light, a little bit too bright, so I might have to like go back in afterwards and tone down the value of my character, maybe make it a little bit more saturated and just a little bit darker, or else it'll be a little bit too pale. Although the character is supposed to be kind of pale, but it might be too pale. So, but that's why putting in the background is going to help me kind of figure out like the colors to go about filling in my character with. Oh, this is a good question. When you've stepped back from a project for a while, how do you handle finishing the project when you come back and find that it no longer meets your current abilities? Like you've improved your abilities too much, and now it's a little bit hard to um go back into it. I'm assuming that that's kind of like the question. Yeah. Um. Also, demo sin. That's a, I guess it's like a good thing. I guess this piece kind of popped up into your suggestions. Um. I feel like it can go either way in terms of like tackling a project that like you like maybe put down to the side, and then you like are coming back to, and now you have like an improved skill set. One, you can either kind of depends on how much you've improved and what you've improved on. So if it's like character design and your anatomy has gone better, I think for an example like that, you might have to just bite the bullet and restart, depending on how unsalvageable your piece was. But if it's like really, really salvageable, meaning that it's like, oh, the anatomy wasn't too bad, then you could probably go in and just maybe adjust a few things. And especially if it's like digital, you can use things like the lasso tool or the transform tool and the warp tool to just quickly adjust some of the proportions. Like, let's say if you really struggled with like the size of the torso, but then afterwards you've mastered it and you come back to this character because you really, really like it, and you're like, oh, all I have to do is maybe lasso tool the torso a bit and make it a little bit longer, or make it a little bit larger to match the proportions of the character a little bit better now that I've improved. So it really kind of depends on how much you've improved, what you've improved on, and how much quote unquote fixing your drawing needs. So I would always say, like, take the path of least resistance. If you are able to kind of improvise and fix what you already currently have, then obviously go for it. But if it requires a lot of fixing, then yeah, the second approach is the bite the bullet, unfortunate approach, which is that you just start over. Which is, I know that it's not the solution or the most optimal solution, because you got to go back in and redo the whole thing, but it's like trying to fix something that was already broken. You know, if it's too far gone, it's better to just kind of get something new or make something new. And I think it's the same case for like a piece or painting that you've improved on. I guess a third option is to just do a completely new piece. Because I think if you have improved skills, I think it's better to see how you've improved with a brand new piece and see what new creations you can make. But unless you're really, really tied down, or you're really, really in love with that original first design, then I think it might be more beneficial to just go back, or not go back, but like start a brand new one. Yeah. But those moments have happened before where like I put a piece down and I just haven't touched it for a long time. And then I'll kind of like go through some of the pieces that I've made throughout the year just to, I don't know, just walk down memory lane. And you're like, oh man, I remember making that piece, and oh my goodness, it doesn't look bad, but I feel like I could do better. And so sometimes I will go back and like maybe fix it a little bit, but I find that majority of the time I just kind of redo a whole new piece. Not redo, but like I do a whole new piece. Like I don't try to um, fix what was already there. Um, but yeah, it kind of really depends on your how much you want to fix and how much time you want to invest in fixing an old piece. Um, cool. Looking not too bad. Let's see. When I come to finishing illustrations, how would you motivate yourself to finish slash practice habits that get into the mindset of finishing creating your art? Oh, wow, that's a very that's a good question. That's a very deep kind of introspective question. Um, Sometimes I find that it can help for me to look at other pieces of work. So like I also think it like helps to have a bit of like a deadline in a way, or to have a little bit of like a goal. So that goal could be like, oh, it's a commission piece, then you have to have it done. The other one could be like a portfolio. If you're planning on improving and building a portfolio, then you might want to like give yourself a bit of a deadline so that you're aiming for it. So that this way, even if the piece you're like working on it and you're slowly losing motivation, you have more of like an exterior motivation as to why you need to finish it. And I feel like that can help. So sometimes if I'm not feeling motivated, it's really just more like a mental mindset, getting back into the mindset of like why you're doing this piece, how you made it, and trying to retrace your steps on like what got you to drawing this piece can help too. And for me, it's like listening to music, maybe like looking at other artists that I really, really love, just to get back into the motivation of drawing. Or at least that's what I do sometimes. Um, but yeah, yeah, for sure, burnout. You know, things like burnout, things like losing motivation, or like partway through your drawing you realize that you've messed up a lot, it can take a big hit. Sometimes it's a matter of just like starting over or just taking a little bit of a short break. Those things can help, I think. Uh, oh, oh, yeah. Look at Jess Frazier. Hello. I feel like I haven't seen you in a while, but glad you're able to make it, and thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, we have a good collection of like horror streams and horror videos, so I would highly recommend you just kind of scroll through the kind of our YouTube page, and hopefully you might find some. And I know that Vin has been kind of sharing a lot of different playlists with you, so definitely take some time to kind of take a look through them. Yeah. Is it default or custom made? The brush I'm using right now is custom, so it's a brush called Chalk Grainy, and it's a brush that I've been kind of using actually very recently. So I feel like back maybe like give me like 2-3 years ago, I would not have used a brush like this because it's I don't know, it just doesn't taper the way that I want. But I don't know, lately I've been really loving it. It's been kind of scratching a certain kind of textural itch or flow that I've been kind of missing in my drawings as of late. So yeah. Let me see. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah, no problem. Let me see. Also, I guess going back to that whole like there are a lot of portrait studies that I've done throughout like the years and whatnot, and sometimes I look back at them and I'm like, oh man, I would have fixed this, I would have changed this and changed that and done it a bit differently, but I don't think I would ever go back to that same piece and try to redraw it, if that makes sense. I feel like usually if I've done a portrait study and my sense of lighting and rendering and textures and or even just like being able to map out the facial anatomy and structure, if that has improved, I feel like I'm not going to try to fix that portrait study. I think like usually my mindset is more of like I'm gonna go and try to do a new portrait study to try out and test out the skills that I have kind of developed by doing portrait studies. So each subsequent kind of portrait study and painting is going to help you improve on the next one and the next one and the next one. So I guess in the case of that, if you're doing like studies and portrait studies, you obviously can go back and try to do it one more time or like redo it again because now you've learned a little bit more. But I think it's a little bit more beneficial to just do a brand new study or brand new portrait study and painting to push yourself even more. Because if you do the same portrait study over and over and over again, yeah, that portrait study might get better, but you're more just kind of repeating the same thing that you've learned over and over again. Whereas when you do a new portrait study, you have to kind of tackle it a little bit differently. It's going to challenge you a little bit in a different way, and the problem solving that you have to go through is going to be a little bit different. So in terms of like portrait studies and paintings, I would recommend not redoing it, even though you feel like you have like a new kind of a new skill gained. Yeah. I know we have a lot of videos on drawing like or where we drew cute things, mostly like Iggy and I think like Jesse, but I don't know if we have like a tutorial video specifically on drawing cute things. I am not one to draw cute things, so I definitely, off my memory of what I've done, I have not gone through a video on how to draw cute things. But if there is one, I'm hope maybe Vin can find you one. I know Vin's working overtime on helping you out finding all these videos. So definitely I hope that you taken some time to watch them because yeah, Vin is working real hard on finding you all these videos. As opposed to selecting pieces and filling them in quickly. Ah, yeah. So this is something that Kevin brought up, and so I think it really comes down to speed and how you want to approach it. So for me, let me see. Actually, let's maybe go look a bit more on the white side. So that's a really good question, and Kevin brought this up to me one time. Where it's like, oh, why don't you just use the bucket tool? And I guess I could, and you can. The reason why I don't personally use the bucket tool or the fill, it could be a combination of few things. One, I'm just stubborn, and I want to manually paint things in myself. So maybe some of you guys can relate. Yes, it's definitely slower, and yes, I could probably just trace an area and just bucket tool fill it really, really quickly and not have to worry about hand drawing and or hand painting it. But the benefit to hand painting is that I can get things like this, where you can't get this if you bucket tool or bucket fill. These kind of incidental marks or kind of brushstroke indications here, like you can't exactly get those if you're kind of using the bucket tool. And it just really comes down to how you like to paint and what the feel is. So like you can see here, it's meant to be asymmetrical. I don't want it to be too symmetrical. I don't want it to be too much the same. So I'm manually coloring it in. And when you hand kind of color things in, I think the great thing is like you get these kind of imperfections. You get these marks and forms that you wouldn't get if you use the bucket tool. So I just like that. I like the more randomness in coloring things in this way. It feels a little bit more natural. It feels more painterly. And that's where the stubborn part is. I have a more traditional painting background where I painted with gouache a lot. And the great thing about using gouache is you would get these like imperfect patches here and there on the painting that add a lot of just like nuance and texture to your art pieces. So by doing things, so the TLDR of it is, yes, using like the kind of quick fill or the bucket tool or the lasso tool is a really quick way of coloring something in. So if speed and cleanliness is your kind of more method, or it's more of like what you feel is better or more efficient, then I would say like, yeah, use the quick fill tool, use the bucket tool, use the lasso tool or selection tool to help you fill things in quickly. But if that's not your kind of cup of tea, so to speak, then I would recommend doing what I do here, which is if you want that more traditional, more textural feel, then you can kind of hand paint it. I just also like the act of hand painting something in because it's kind of, I don't know, I find it kind of therapeutic filling things in kind of just by hand manually. But again, that's more my take. But yeah, you wouldn't get by filling in. Yeah, exactly. Obviously there are probably some tricks that you can do to still get that texture and still like do a quick fill, but I think it ends up sometimes feeling quite manufactured, or it can get kind of almost like a pattern, or it's a intentional texture that you put in. Like let's say I found paper texture on the internet and I put it on, and then I used an overlay fill, and then I did a bucket tool fill over it. I would still get the paper texture and I would still get a quick fill in, but now it kind of feels like I just took a paper texture, put it in digitally, and then just like did a bucket tool fill over it, and it doesn't feel handmade. Whereas I feel like something like this, like you're not gonna get markings like this randomness and this texture from doing it quickly. But that just might be me. That might just be me being stubborn. But yeah, that is kind of just how I like to approach it. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, no problem, Silver Moon. Honestly, like I think as you guys get better and better at painting and drawing, what you'll realize is that the quote unquote rules of art is very much kind of up there for how you guys want to do it. So I don't think there's if you guys are like, oh, you know what, um, I like doing it this way, then by all means, you can definitely stick to it. Let's see. Maybe a bit more on the trying to figure out like or think of what color to use for these. And clean, having those brushes makes it feel more human and natural. Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. I think by, with I guess also the onset of like AI and everything, having something sometimes feel a little bit imperfect can feel a little bit more human. Although when I say like imperfect, obviously like AI has those like artifacts and like mistakes that it makes, like quote unquote mistakes that it makes. That's different from a more human mistake. I feel like there's so many videos out there where people are commenting on like why this feels AI, why it doesn't feel like legitimate or real. And a big part of it just comes down to like when you see an AI piece and then it makes a mistake that a professional artist wouldn't make, like for example having like 6 fingers. Let's say it's rendered like beautifully, like a Michelangelo painting, but then the character has 6 fingers. That's kind of odd because like a professional artist isn't going to make a mistake like that. So that's not the mistake I'm referring to when I talk about like, or when I talk about kind of the human mistake. Human mistakes are a little bit more tangible, I feel. Um, so yeah. Yeah, let's make it this bit like more saturated, a little bit more bright. Oh, and because I took some time to outline, um, or like go around everything, like the fountain and the water with the like the dark blue background, I'm able to just paint the water and the fountain without worrying about going outside of the line. So if I took away the background, you'll see that I'm coloring all over the place. But because the background, I like spend some time cutting it out, I'm able to not worry about things going outside of the frame or outside of the lines. Yeah. Let's see. I'm not caught up with One Punch Man, no, so I cannot say how bad it is. Although I have heard that it is not. A lot of people don't really like how it's going so far, but I cannot say. I do not have any thoughts on the newest One Punch Man season. But let's see. How do you know when you're finished with your piece? Ooh, that's also really another really good question. I like these questions you guys are throwing at me so far. Um, I think sometimes what can help is to have a little bit of like an inspiration or mood board. So, what do I mean by that is when you go into a piece, I think sometimes you can kind of go like, okay, I want to draw like so and so. So, for example, one of my biggest kind of inspirations, or let's say line heroes, or artists who have like a really cool approach to line work, is like Mike Mignola, the artist of Hellboy. I really love the contrast. I really love the shapes that he uses in his piece. Even the way he renders is like really, really cool. So when I do a piece and I'm trying to not necessarily replicate Mike Mignola, but I'm trying to learn from him. Sometimes the way I call a piece finished is whether or not it kind of reminds me of his work, or let's say the quality of the work feels the same. So that could be one way, is to kind of look at your inspirations and ask yourself like, does it kind of match the way that you want it to look in regards to your like inspirations. So that I think that like that's one. Another thing that you can like maybe consider is like sometimes to have a goal in mind, or to have an idea of how finished you want it to be. And what that means is like, do you want it to be realistic? If you want it to be realistic in its lighting and in its rendering, then it might be good to call it done when you have it look realistic. So things like reflections, ambient occlusion, rim lighting, cast shadows, all that kind of stuff. That's going to help you determine whether it's done or not. And if you're trying to go for hyper realism, then it's going to be the sense of details, atmosphere, all that kind of stuff. But if you're trying to go for something a bit more cartoony, then I would say that the sense of finish is going to be more on like how clean is it? Did you add any kind of just like a second shadow to it? So right now everything here is flat. There are no shadows on my piece right now. But I would call this done when I add like a second shadow and maybe like a rim lighting or a secondary lighting to it. That's when I call it done. So I think it sometimes helps, or it's good to kind of go in with a certain kind of expectation for your piece. So if you're like, okay, I know going in I want it to look like this, then how you judge whether it's done or not is based on how clean you did it, or how close you are in matching that finished result you're originally aiming for. I know that's a bit of like a more ambiguous kind of answer, but that's because like the answer or the question of like how do you know when something's finished is a very personal sense, or a personal kind of like question, personal in the sense of like everybody's going to have a different take on it. So I do think that it really comes down on what you're expecting for yourself and from yourself when you're working on these pieces. Oh, let's go for like I don't know, like a jade yellow kind of bangle bracelet. Maybe like, nah. Maybe this one we can make it like red, or like orangey. Hopefully that helps a little bit. I know that that's a bit more of like a slightly open answer or reply, but hopefully it gives you a little bit of a direction that you could like, head into. Feel unnatural. Yeah, art does have a tendency to feel a little bit unnatural. But I'm here. Oh, hey, Shadow Bean. Actually, Shadow Bean, could you remind me where you put your animatic or animation? Because I actually was trying to look for it, but I couldn't find it. So just let me know which channel you put it in, and I'll try to remember it, and I'll go take a look at it. Yeah. But hello, glad you're able to join. Let me see. A fee that will make it. I don't feel that AI will replace a fee that will make it more expensive. Not too sure what you mean by that, but yeah, I'm hoping AI, people kind of start to kind of move away from it as they start seeing the cost, or like not cost in like how much we have to pay, but how much as like our society we have to pay for it. Yeah. How do you study composition? I study mostly grayscale, and let me see what else do you say? Simplify. Oh, let's see. Maybe mostly I could think was the reference artist slash or art slash artist, and simplify it into grayscale thumbnail and analyze by looking focal points. Is there more? Yeah, I would say that like learn to kind of study movies or like shows, and kind of see how they're composing their like focal points. How are they framing their characters? The whole thing with like simplifying things into grayscale is good for learning about like depth and perspective. But if you're trying to figure out like framing and like how do you compose shots, I think that's a little bit different from like than using like grayscale to learn about like foreground, midground, and background. That's a little bit different from learning how to frame and tell a story. So I feel like the best ways, or some of how I like to learn that is to watch movies. And different movies are going to have different ways of framing them. Different directors kind of specialize in different compositions. So as like, you know, expose yourself to more media, different forms of media, and see what you can learn from like different directors, different cinematographers, and yeah. Let's see. Been studying Mike Mignola composition, heavy black ink black with bold big shapes in the background phrase. Yeah, I love Mike Mignola's way of approaching covers. It's like it's so much fun, and it's like he's very illustrative and he's very free in how he approaches it, which I think is like really cool because he doesn't necessarily follow quote unquote logic when it comes to composition. It's more like that montage composition. Yeah. Question. So like I use an XPPen. Oh, let me see. Vin, I think. Okay, cool. Yeah, Vin, answer your question. Nice. Let me see. Community tab. Oh, it's on the community tab. Oh, that's cool. Okay. I'll check that out then. I was looking at it on Discord, Shadowbean, but I'll check it out on the Wing Canvas community tab on YouTube. Okay. I'll try to remember that. Let me see. Yeah, for sure. Definitely be careful of what you share and the type of information you share. Definitely try not to share too much of your personal kind of like info. Yeah. But I'm back now. I just woke up. Oh, hey, Kiro Pico. Hey, I gave you a shout out for your piece at the beginning. Glad you're able to join us. Movie are a good example. I just use a screenshot jump website for movie. Oh yeah, yeah. I love screenshot movie dump. Screenshots from movies. The websites that kind of host it. Yeah, I use that a lot too to sometimes study like compositions as well. Yeah. Working on getting it though. Ah, okay, okay, nice. But yeah, movies. I think is like a great way of like learning about composition. Okay, let me see. What do we have now? Okay, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give my background a little bit of a gradation, and I'm just gonna use the airbrush for that. So I think I'm gonna make the upper part much darker. And what I did, by the way, is I alpha locked it. So it's this kind of check mark icon that's over here on the right hand side. Oh, film grab. Yeah, I use film grab a lot too. Nice, someone else is also aware of the website film grab. Yeah, there's so many movies and a good amount of screenshots. Obviously I feel like you could screenshot everything, but they do have a good wide collection. So yeah. So I'm gonna alpha lock the background, and I'm gonna use the airbrush here, and I'm gonna make the background much darker, just so that there's a little bit of a contrast. And the reason why I'm alpha locking the background layer, like the blue background layer, is just so that any kind of texture or brush strokes that I had gets kind of retained. It keeps it. And I love kind of doing that just so that there's a little bit of, again, texture and noise inside of like the piece. And I'm just gonna make it a little bit lighter in the middle. So the reason why I'm also alpha locking it is because the background itself is like has a bit of texture, and I want to retain that texture, but the airbrush is not textured. So if I only rely on the airbrush, it's going to be a little bit too smooth. And so I don't want it to be like super smooth. And I'm kind of changing the colors a little bit by bit, just to make it a little bit more kind of natural and glowy, and also kind of a bit more like smoke and kind of an effect, rather than like a nice smooth normal gradation I want it to almost feel a little bit kind of gradual as it's going up. Oh, also I saw someone say that they checked out Krita, but it didn't work. Uh, it could be that you just, I would say, try to check out your computer's specs as well. So make sure that you have the correct specs, like the specifications, and your computer build can handle it. Because I think, especially the more current Krita builds are a little bit more uh, intensive. Will Josh finish the piece in 30 minutes? Who knows? Yeah, I know. I've been spending more time kind of talking rather than coloring it, but we will see. Okay, and then on the character, okay, so this is something that I did for my character, for my own drawing that I did, and basically I used the chalk grainy to roughly block in where I wanted the shadows to be, but after, so that I have a little bit of texture. And I love, this is why I love the chalk grainy pencil, because you're able to get these like nice brush strokes and nice kind of like blocks of colors. And then afterwards I go in with the airbrush and smoothen it out a little bit. But yeah. And I'm alpha locking everything that I'm painting now just so that it's it kind of stays inside of like the shapes and stays inside of like the areas I need it to stay inside of. So I'm going to just kind of give it a little bit of color, just some little splashes of colors and noise, just so that it, you know, it's not just a flat blue color. And the way that I'm kind of perceiving this is that the light is coming from the fountain, it's coming from kind of like the water, so I want the top close, the areas closest to the hairline or the forehead is going to be what is the brightest, and then any area that is hidden behind that is going to stay in like that magenta, or not magenta, that's cyan color. And something that I learned from doing the portrait study, or not the portrait study, but from doing the initial kind of winter illustration, is to try not to have the hair be too smooth, but to have a little bit of like these sharper shadows near the front to kind of imply like a little bit more of like these shapes, kind of like carving out shapes in the head a little bit more. So I'm gonna try to retain that, and then I'm also trying to give the head hair shape a little bit of like a, you know, close mid tone, and then a darker value over there. We're gonna clean it up a little bit too, so it's not gonna be too it's not, I'm not gonna try to make it too like rendered or shaded out, but I do want to give it just a little bit of texture and noise for the piece. Yeah. And then we're gonna just increase the saturation a little bit and the value, just so that this is gonna be the core shadow. The core shadow is gonna stick closer to like the border of like that transition in the hair. We want that sharper shadow, so things are much more kind of like stronger in terms of like their shadow shapes. Yeah, I think we answered it. Maybe you kind of hopped off for a little bit, but I think I said that Jessie and Iggy, I specialize a little bit more with cute things. Jessie does a little bit of a different approach with cute things. I think her approach is more of like drawing cute things with a little bit of like a twisted horror vibe, whereas Iggy has a little bit more of like your traditional cute anime approach. So, yeah. I would say like you can check out both of their streams. I think both of them kind of have probably some some things to kind of look at. Although I think let me try to think. I don't know if we have any particular or specific videos on drawing cute things. It's more of like the subject matter is cute things. So just kind of keep that in mind, is that I don't know for sure if the stream or videos itself is on how to draw cute things, but it's just more so that the topics or the subject matter that we drew was related to cute things. But hopefully that helps. So thank you, Vin, for answering all the like unanswered questions on my behalf, since I might be like missing it and whatnot. Let's push it a little bit brighter. You can have like the front part of the hair definitely a little bit brighter over here so that it catches that glow effect a little bit more. Every day, yeah. Well, I guess that's the price you have to pay when you make when you make your name like the uh, similar or the same as one of like a term, an art term that's gonna be used like all the time. It's a cool name though. Okay, this one I'm also gonna do a little bit more of like a gradation kind of approach to it. Push it more into the purple side of things. So the forehead is going to be a little bit darker, and then it's going to move into like a gradation and get lighter and lighter as it goes down. And then we can make this part of the nose darker. We can have the tip of the nose very bright. Maybe we'll have it be like a little bit on the blue side, since like the water is blue. Actually, I might do that. Have the eyelids, and underneath the eyes, these are the parts that's going to be catching like the blue from the water. So these parts are going to be bright, and the rest of the face might be a little bit on the darker side. Give a, maybe we can make it a little bit, maybe a bit more purple. We make the eyes definitely on the like the bright blue. Yeah, it looks pretty good. And I think we'll add a little bit of like this white sheen to it. Actually, in that case, maybe I'll make the eyes a little bit darker, or at least darker at the top part. Just a little bit darker. So it has a bit of like that eyeball shine to it. So this part is catching like the reflections, but then the eyeball itself is a bit brighter. There's a bit more blue. And then we'll give it a little bit of more of that blue glow on the bottom of the face as it goes up. And yeah, and then in this case, now that everything's kind of tying in a little bit better, I can make the forehead a little bit darker to really emphasize like the shadows and everything. Yeah, there you go. It's looking pretty good. Now the only problem is that I have to make everything else also match this color scheme. So there's, I guess, that downside. Yeah. Also, this looks super cool. Oh, thank you, Kirapiko. Am I familiar with that meme from... Oh, is it a meme? Oh, I didn't even know. I will have to take another look at it. I didn't know it was a meme. I guess I'm not familiar with that meme then, yeah. I don't know where I got that name Shadow from. That's the thing. Bean comes from toe bean on a cat. Art is self-explanatory. And 423, just random numbers I thought sound cool. I mean, you know, it is a good sounding number. It does roll off the tongue very, very well. House Barathi. Oh, that's pretty. You know, I didn't think of that, but that's cool. Nice little Game of Thrones shout out. Cosmic horror. Again, um, I think, you know, I think Jesse has a little bit of that. So I think if you want to tap into, what is it, a cosmic horror, I think Jesse is your go-to person. Yeah, definitely check out her art pieces. Jessie has a lot of kind of cosmic horror style stuff. Although I don't know for sure if I can say that her stuff is like if she did that for stream or if she only did that for like classes. Because I know for classes she's definitely done cosmic horror. Um, but for the other stuff, I'm not too sure whether she has done cosmic horror for stream. That I am not too sure. Okay, there you go. And then the hand. I think the hand's the same approach. Gonna make it a little bit more magenta, and then have a little bit of like a gradation. Gradation, I mean. It haunts me still to this day that for the longest time I've been saying gradation or gradation instead of gradation, and Kevin and Faye called me out on it, and to this day it still haunts me that I called it gradation for the longest time, and then they're like, by the way, it's gradation, not gradation. I'm like, what? That can't be. That doesn't sound right. And they're like, yeah, that's just how it is. I'm like, no, that's impossible. But turns out it is. It is called gradation. Why it's called gradation instead of gradation, I feel like that is life's greatest mysteries, because it's like, why you called that? That doesn't sound right at all. uh Gradation, that's, I feel like that makes more sense, right? Gradation versus gradation. Why would you call it why would you call it gradation? Like, it's called gradient for like, what is that, the noun version of it, but then you're telling me the adjective version or whatever it is called gradation. That, like, what? I don't know, it doesn't make any sense to me. But English is the way that it is, I guess. Okay. Okay, there we go. Let me see. What is it? 143, and I've only painted the person. ah, okay. It's okay. It's all good. We're doing good. We're doing good. The next one is, I guess, the wardrobe. This one we're gonna do it really, really quickly, because this one we're just gonna make it a nice, very easy, simple gradation from like dark to moving over to like light over here. But again, I'm gonna do what I did with my character for that piece, which is to make it darker around like the core shadow area. So core shadows, if anybody doesn't know or hasn't learned this, the core shadow is like the part where the light does not directly hit. So in this case, it'd be like, oh, if the shoulder is rounded, then the core shadow is probably going to sit somewhere around here. So this is me telling the viewer or whoever's looking at the drawing that this is where the shoulder kind of rounds out. So I kind of maybe wanted to also round out maybe around here so it lines up with the arm's shadow as well. Then we'll make this area much darker. Yeah, that was pretty good. And yeah, and so I'm giving also like the core shadow a little bit of this like almost, I don't know what you would call it, this kind of ring, highlight ring here, just so that it is a little bit more, has a little bit of like this light is really like bouncing off of it. It's almost having this like glow effect. So I'm making the core shadow, so like this break off point, the darkest and the most saturated, and then as it goes up it gets lighter, or not lighter, well yeah, I guess a little bit lighter, not as dark, not as saturated as this part here. And I might actually even go a little bit darker so that I can make the rest of the robe dark. And yeah, so on the overview, I'm checking the overview every now and then just so that I can see how it looks overall, because usually when you're drawing you get really caught up on how things look up close, only to realize then that you got a little bit too caught up on the details and it doesn't look good overall. So I'm just kind of checking every now and then to make sure that it like still looks okay. And yeah, I think that's not too bad. I see extra 60 minutes for Josh. Yeah, I guess that extra 60 minutes would be nice. Alas, I cannot have that extra 60 minutes. If anything, I will try to record myself drawing or rendering the rest of this. So, and then, but I will post the final version, or at least the current version that I finish here on stream. And then any kind of extra work that I do, I will do it and record it. And then for anybody who's a member, can get access to it. So I want a bit of this cast shadow from like the hair onto the robe as well, just so, you know, added dramatic effect, added dramatic flair to it. And I'm making sure that it's consistent with like the way the rest of the robe looks, so that it's not just like, oh, randomly here's some dark shadows, but it follows like the form of the body and the rest of the figure as well. Okay, here we go. Nice, not too bad. And same thing, I'm gonna try to figure out what the form and the like where the core shadow is. Now this one might be a bit tricky because the arm is reaching forward, and since the arm is reaching forward, the cast or the core shadow is going to be like here, and then it's going to fade away. So it's not actually going to be as dark or as linear as the other side is going to be. So I'm going to show you guys how I would do this. So it's going to be the darkest around here, the pinch around the arm. And then as the arm comes around here, that core shadow fades away. So this implies like that the source of lighting and shadow is also kind of shifting and changing. You know what I realized though, Vin, is that I guess I have changed. I no longer just do flat rendering now. I've moved on and I now do renders. No more flat color renders now. I've joined team render. And it will do the same thing on this side, and this one will have to actually be brighter because this robe here, this sleeve is much closer to the fountain. And so because it's much closer to the fountain, it will catch more light than the other one. So the sense of vibrancy and light has to be more than the other side. So the cast shadow has to be darker around here. The core shadow has to be darker. Maybe even this has to be a little bit darker, just so that it pushes the sense of like a glowing form a little bit better. Has Josh ever finished a piece on stream before? From all Josh, I don't remember finishing anything. I finished some. Definitely not as much as you know, Jesse, or I think even like Iggy. I actually don't know about Gonzalo. I feel like Gonzalo finishes, or he's kind of similar as well. He like finishes. If he doesn't finish it, he'll finish it on off stream. But I think like both Iggy and Jesse, I think they both do a pretty good job of finishing. Me though, yeah, no, it's I just get too caught up on the drawing, you know. I'm just like, oh, why would we do that? Or like, oh wait, we could do it like this, and then I get really caught up with the drawing, and we don't finish. He finishes shoe streams. Ah, man. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, yeah. Okay, bye bye. And supermarket art. Yeah, the supermarket one also took some time. Okay, I think I'll call it a day for the robe. How much time? Oh, we have 10 minutes left. Oh boy. You know what? While I'm trying to finish this up, feel free to drop a like onto the stream if you haven't done so already. We kind of, as always, we stream every Saturday and Monday. The Saturday ones are at 3 p.m. Eastern time, and the Monday ones are like right now, so at 12. And I'm glad for those who are able to catch us. I'm glad you guys or hopefully having a lot of fun watching me kind of render and try to finish this as much as possible. Yeah, if you like the stream so far, definitely drop a like. It helps us out a lot. And also subscribe so that you know when we're streaming, and also definitely ring that bell so that you know when we go live. Okay, the water, I'm just gonna try to do as much as I can of the water. The water is really more just like this big blobby shape, and all the shadow is mostly on the inside of the water form. So all these kind of water strips and water kind of blobs, the darkest form of the shadow is gonna be like inside, and then same thing, you can add a little bit of like a core shadow around like the edge. So I want most of the lighting to be here. So most of the water's darkest forms are going to be around the top, leaning in towards like the center area. So I'm going to be worrying more about like the shadows for now. And then as I finish the shadows, I'll move on to the highlight parts so that those parts are also indicated. But I find that it's more satisfying to indicate the shadows and then put in the lighting afterwards, so that like the shadows really like pop, you know. Speed run rendering, yeah. I mean, you know, as always, I don't mind staying on a little bit longer if I think I can finish this. So I think I might be able to get like majority of this kind of done. I think it would be kind of ironic if I don't finish this on a stream that we called How to Finish Your Artwork. I just thought of it just now. I'm like, wait, that's kind of ironic that if I don't finish this. So I think we have to, like, by principle, I have to finish this. So we are gonna speedrun this. Gonna try to get this done as quickly as possible. You know, speaking of unfinished streams, I think I have finished some, but it is very far and few in between for sure, Shadow. I don't finish as much as I would like, for sure. But this one, we will make this one a finished piece. This one will be a finished rendered piece. Ooh, okay. Maybe can even like maybe make some of these even darker. What kind of giveaways? Oh, loves to do giveaways in chat if we reach a lot of views. So invite your friends and families to do live streams for a chance to win something. Ooh. Yeah, he mentioned that last time too for Saturdays, where it was like if I forgot the number, but I think it was like 60. If we get 60 viewers on stream, concurrent streamers, he'll give away like a certain prize to someone. I don't remember what it was, or I don't even know if he ever specifies what the reward is. But yeah, definitely invite your friends and have them just come hang out. It's like a fun time, and they can also get a chance to just like ask questions, and I will try to answer them as I'm kind of painting along. Okay, there we go. Nice. So all that's left now is like these highlight points, which will be like very bright, and it'll kind of cut into the shadow a little bit, almost like this sphere like kind of point, so that it feels more like a highlight, and it feels more like it's glassy in a way. And we'll have it all be on like mostly the edge and the rim of these kind of water droplets. And around the middle, it's going to get a little bit closer to that. I might have to actually take away the lines that I did for the water, just so that it doesn't... It's kind of detracting a little bit right now from like the glow of the fountain. So might have to take that aspect away. Hey, there we go. Not too bad. Pretty good. XPPen benefits membership class credit. Ooh, nice. Drops a 6-month membership, refuses to elaborate. Kevin is Wing Canvas's Santa. That's hilarious. Vin, have you ever told him that? I think he would. I think he would like that very much. To be told he is. He is the Santa of Wing Canvas. Or maybe don't tell him that. That might eat into his ego a bit too much. We can't have Kevin be too ego driven. Let me see what is left. Oh, of course, the almighty reindeer fountain. Oh, okay, let me see. How do I want to render this? Oh, I did not think too much on like how I would render this one. Ooh, okay. Definitely want the closest part of the fountain to be kind of like the blue color, and trying to make it as ellipse-like as I can. So that's kind of like a big key part of doing an ellipse shadow. If you're going to be doing a shadow for something that has an ellipse, so basically anything that is circular or disc-like is an ellipse. So things like cups, saucers, bottles, they all have ellipse around like the opening. That is something like this. So definitely kind of make sure that the shadows that you draw are very ellipse-like. Okay, so I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have the lighting be kind of from the bottom, again, to just drive home that magical element of it. And then we're just gonna gray down this part and darken it. We'll darken the whole thing, but the part that's the darkest will be here. I'm not worrying about painting over the antlers for now, just because those parts are... we can worry about that afterwards. We can come back. And then I'm going to make sure that the core shadow kind of also follows the shape of the bowl. So I'm gonna cut back into some of these shapes to make it more rounded, to match the curvature of the bowl. I'm adding a little bit of orange just to give it a little bit of like that glowing effect look. I'm gonna just do that, and same thing, gonna add a little bit of coarse shadow lighting around the edge of this one here, trying to make it match the curvature of the bowl as well. And then a little bit of highlight around the bottom of it. Or look like concrete. Yeah, I'm definitely, that was definitely the goal. I wanted to make the bowl fountain look kind of like it's a sculpture. So yeah, for sure. I like that you're on the same mind kind of like track for like how I want to do this. Now, because we're I'm kind of like going at this really quickly, I might get some of the lighting for the fountain a little bit off, so you'll have to forgive me a little bit if I'm getting the lighting on the fountain just like a bit skewed, just because we're doing this relatively quickly. So I want to get this done and not spend too much time on it. And okay, now we're gonna move on to, oh, I totally forgot about this part. Okay, just gonna have to color in this part of the antler, or not the antler, the background. Forgot about this part. We're gonna paint this part in. Oh, I forgot I could turn on the symmetry tool for it. Oh, actually, like going back to that whole topic of like why hand draw something in, I think that goes also for like the symmetry tool. The symmetry tool is great. It's a very useful tool, but also be careful of not over relying on it too much, or else it can feel very like it's too synthetic feeling. Oh no, I put it in the wrong spot. No. Dang it. See. Okay, give me a sec. Gonna just go back in and change this up real quick, because this is gonna be a pain in the butt if I don't do this properly. It needs to be done well so that when I paint the reindeer part, I don't have to worry about making it clean. Oh, okay, so it is 2:02. I know that technically this is when stream is done, but I'm just gonna hold on to this just a little bit longer, just because I feel like we're really close to finishing. So I want to just finish it a little bit more, because then I think it'll be really, really cool. Curvature is a fun word for me. We're in sync. We're a hive. Yeah. Hive mind would be crazy. Let's see. What's next? Okay, I'm gonna do this antler piece here. So I'm gonna keep it fairly simple and just gonna use the airbrush for most of it. What I want is for the shadow to be mostly on to be at the bottom. So every part that faces up on the reindeer is going to have shadow. So that's going to be like these areas here, this area of the antler, even like here. And this is going to be really, really important, because in order to sell the believability of the lighting, you have to make sure everything is consistent for the light source that you're choosing. So that's why when I'm doing this right now, I'm making sure I know where the light source is, where I want the light source to be, and how that light source is affecting and hitting the objects. So in this case, I think I would put it like this as well. And because the antlers here are covered, I'm actually going to merge this all in, because the antlers are going to get covered. The light's not going to go through to it because it's covered by the head of the deer, so it's not going to have the light source there hitting it. And so something like this. Yeah. So then this way it at least just makes sense and it's consistent. And let me see, the head of the deer, and then this part, same thing, the fur. For the most part, the fur is going to be obscured by shadow. So most of it is going to be in shadow, except for like the very edges of the fur. So I don't have to really worry too much about it, but I'm going to color all of it in like here and leave only the edges of it. So there we have a really, really quick one. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just get the highlight color that I had at the bottom here, and I'm just going to make the bottom of the ears kind of glowy. So it again matches the color scheme that we had already at the bottom of the bowl. And I'm going to put it mostly at the parts that are closer to the bottom. So I'm not going to try to highlight any areas like too much up here. The strongest amounts of glow is actually going to be at the bottom and then on the edge of the reindeer's fur. So I'm not even going to bring it over here. I'm mostly going to have it on the outside. And the inside fur, though, I am going to have it be lighter, but mostly an orange color, just so that there's a little bit of brightness and saturation to it, but it's different from like the blue lighting. So there's just a little bit of contrast and a little bit of differentiation between the two. And then the eyes, you know what? The eyes, we can make them a little bit darker. We can make them kind of like sphere-like shapes, so we're going to make it mostly dark. And then we're going to add a little bit of speck highlight at the bottom, just so that it feels more like it's a sphere-like shape. Oh yeah, so I did definitely use a kind of symmetry tool for the antlers. Now I know that you're like, wait, Josh, you said you wouldn't use the symmetry tool, or like you'll try to make some things break so that it's not too symmetrical. So why are the antlers symmetrical? And I would say that for things that are a little bit more organic, or not organic, a bit more sculptural, kind of like the antlers here, or like this fountain in general is a little bit more sculpture-like. And so because of that, I would say that it's kind of okay if the antlers are a little bit too symmetrical. Just because it kind of gives that more like sculpted man-made feel. Whereas something like hair or a person's face, I would try not to use the symmetry tool too much. Like use it to get the general proportions and placement of things. And then afterwards, I would kind of change up the placement of the antlers just so that they're a little bit different. But yeah, no, that's a really good question, because I know that that's a kind of, if that's what you're trying to like get at or infer, is like, oh, you brought up symmetry tool, how come the antlers are not, like, how come the antlers are symmetrical? And it's because things are a little bit more man-made, like hand sculpted. I would say that it's okay to have those things be a little bit more like symmetrical. It's okay. But I think even then, if I had a little bit more time, I think I would still go back in and make the antlers not symmetrical, or at least just a little bit, like maybe add little bumps and nuances to it so that it's not too symmetrical. Okay, so now that it's done here, we've gotten the highlight points. I'm going to increase, sorry, it was a really quick answer, but yeah, we're just gonna try to speed run through this, so we're like really going quickly at it. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to add the core shadows to the antler or the reindeer's face. So core shadows are like super important when it comes to rendering something, because it really makes that the shapes of your objects and your sculptures really pop. If you don't have a core shadow outline the transition between the lights and the midtones, it can really dull down your object. So if you just simply have a light core shadow and a midtone here, so you can see here the midtone is a little bit lighter, but if you have that core shadow, it really makes things like pop. So I would really highly recommend that you try to include the core shadow whenever possible, because it really just makes the objects like pop a little bit more. And if you find that the core shadow's not dark enough and you need to darken it, or if you find that the midtones are not dark enough and you need to darken it, feel free to do so. But if you darken the midtones, you're going to also have to darken the core shadows. So everything just needs to kind of work in tandem with one another. If you make the midtones darker, then you'll also have to make the core shadows darker, and so on and so forth, just so that it's all consistent. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's something that I like to do too. So like the initial sketch, so that's a good point that you brought up, Cozy, which is that do the initial drawing in the with the symmetry tool, so you get the general base symmetry form and shape there. And then when you go back in to clean it up again, do it by hand and don't rely on the symmetry tool. So yeah, that's a really good point, and that's something that I also do as well. Um, just so that again you get a chance to really break up the sense of symmetry as much as you can. Okay, I think we're almost done. I'm just gonna darken some of these antler parts here, and then I think we'll call it a day from that point on. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. I really enjoyed this piece. This piece turned out really good. And I'll be submitting, or not submitting this, but I'll be kind of putting it into the art challenge page, so that if you guys want to take a look at it, you are free to check it out. And then I will, yeah, I'll also post this onto the live stream part, as well as some of like maybe the notes or further breakdown, if there are any. I don't think there actually are any further breakdowns, but if there are, if there are some that I can like think of down the road, I'll try to include it. But for the most part, I think this is pretty much it. So hope you guys enjoyed this one. I had a lot of fun painting this piece here. And yeah, I think this one turned out pretty good, pretty successful. Yeah, if you guys have any final questions before I finish up, let me know, and I'll excuse me, I'll see if I can answer it. But yeah. Hey, there we go. I might actually just make the frame a little bit larger, but other than that, it's really good. Let me see. Keep calling it horns. Yeah. Let me see. I don't know if anybody has any questions. Let me see. Struggle to sketch digitally, like I have to do my sketch on paper, then do everything else digitally. Oh, I mean, you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. I think that's what I used to do for myself as well. Um, I don't think there's anything wrong with that if you feel the need to ever like um, you know, include those aspects into your drawing or your drawing process. So it was like, oh, do I need to kind of I feel I need to kind of like sketch traditionally and then bring it in digitally. And I think that's totally fine. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. Um, but yeah, I think it's if that's what you like, if that's kind of what kind of works for you, I think you can totally go for it. But I would say like give it a shot every now and then. Try to like do your drawings um digitally, and just try to get a handle on it. I think the more you kind of stick with it, the easier it kind of gets. But yeah. I think the more you kind of stick with drawing traditionally, the easier it'll be. Sorry. That advice is a little bit like oh yeah, just draw more. But I think like the more you build into like the habit and the feel of drawing traditionally, I mean digitally, the easier it'll be to kind of just incorporate it into your drawing flow, and it'll just feel hopefully a little bit more natural. Now, obviously, I don't think there's anything actually wrong with doing the procedure that you do. Like if you like drawing traditionally and then cleaning it up, or drawing traditionally or doing the initial sketch traditionally and then cleaning it up digitally afterwards, I think that's totally fine. I have a lot of friends who do that. I have a lot of people I know who kind of just like the more traditional feel and touch. So they've kind of just adopted that kind of workflow where they work traditionally and then work digitally afterwards. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that's a totally perfectly acceptable approach. Okay, cool. I think this is it. I think we'll call it here finally. Hope you guys enjoyed this piece. I actually really quite like this. This turned out much better than I thought it would. Sometimes when you go into a piece, you don't know how exactly it might go. There's a lot of improvisation, a lot of improvising, and a lot of pivoting. And I think this one is like one of my favorites that I've gotten to do for stream. So thank you everybody for joining. I'm just gonna end off with a bit of a closing statements, and that'll be the end of stream. And again, as always, keep an eye on the Discord live stream channel where I'll be uploading this image. So if you want to take a look at it, as well as like the finished line work, that's where I'll be putting it. And yeah, I'm just gonna close off with our closing statements, and that'll be the end of stream. So thank you guys for joining our stream. If this is your first time joining, my name is Josh, and I'm one of the instructors over at Wing Canvas. And if you don't know who we are at Wing Canvas, our mission is to make art education easily accessible to everyone. And so you can join us for free live stream lessons on YouTube every week, Saturdays at 3 p.m. Eastern and Mondays at 12 p.m. Eastern. And feel free to level up your skills with our community of art nerds. And we're of course also more than just a YouTube channel. We're an online school of illustration and visual storytelling dedicated to helping artists turn their passion into income. A huge shout out to our amazing students and supporters, our members, for supporting our mission. We love seeing your incredible artwork and watching you grow in our classes and weekly critiques. And if you'd like to dive deeper, check us out on Discord and join our Discord to access stream notes and demos and exclusive artwork, art challenges, and more free resources to help you improve. So come connect with fellow art nerds and get inspired. And also, we'd like to thank our sponsor for the stream, XPPen, who have an amazing selection of digital art tablets for both beginner and advanced artists. So if you're looking for an affordable and reliable digital tablet, go browse their store. You'll find the link in the description below. So thank you, XPPen, for sponsoring the stream. And also thank you everybody for joining today's stream. Had a lot of fun chatting and also finishing up this piece with you guys. And hope you guys have a good rest of the day, and I will see you next time. Actually, for any of you guys who are part of our members, I'm actually doing my live critique session on Discord, and it'll be from 5 to 6, I believe, or 6:30. Yeah, 5 to 6:30. I'll be hosting a live critique and live feedback session for our members. So if you're a member, I hope to see your pieces. If you're not a member that gets live feedback, but you are a member that allows you to just hang in and sit in, definitely come out and hang out and just listen in. Vin, you won't be able to. I haven't seen your pieces in so long, Vin. It's been a hot minute. But hopefully one day you can catch it. And yeah, that's kind of it. Hope you guys have a good day. Stay safe, everybody. Stay warm. I guess well, if your country is cold, then stay warm. If your country is hot, then I guess stay cool. But yeah, have a good one, everybody. Bye bye.